Wicked. Here we are with Erika Briones. How are you?
Great.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. I love having conversations with people that are conscious, they're on their purpose, they're on their path.
Likewise. It's why I started this show. So it's important, I feel, to have these conversations, to reach out and connect with the tribe. And, a lot of the people I speak to, I have no idea who they are. And we find out on the conversation, like
Yeah.
I know of them, but I don't really know that much. I've
Mhm.
never spoke to them, or I've spoke to them once or twice, or we know each other completely via online. So just having an actual back and forth is really powerful thing. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Awesome. Just for
Heard
the
so many great things about you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure at least some of them are true.
Some of them.
For those who don't know you, do you want to just let the people know, just to back up a little bit and tell them who you are and what you're about?
Yes. My name is Erika Briones. As you know, I help the shy underdog become kings and queens in the bedroom. I coach for the Evolved Masculine Leadership. So I'm being mentored by my teacher, my friend, Dustin Garrett. So I'm learning a lot about men and sexuality and what does it mean to be an evolved masculine. And so that's one chunk. The other chunk is, I also come from like sexual abuse, and I used to be a former dominatrix. I did all of the things that we don't really talk about in society, and now it's like coming out each time. Each time I do a podcast, a live stream on Facebook, there's like energy that like leaves, and each time I do it, it's like it's not a big deal.
So you said a lot there. So let's rewind a little bit. So you work with the underdog, guys and girls, right? To unleash. Tell me the wording again.
I help the shy underdog to become kings and queens in the bedroom.
Become kings and queens in the bedroom. And is that? Yeah. I imagine that leads to kings and queens out in the world, or you work
in the world too, right? Because that all translates. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Cool. And let's just back right up and say, how did you get involved in that? How did you become somebody who helps, to work with these people to help them become kings and queens in the bedroom?
Yeah. Before I get into it, I wanted to talk about, like, let's just break down that sentence, right?
Yeah.
The shy underdog. What is that? For me, like when I see those movies, I love film. Like I studied film. I think I was watching Kingsman, and seeing the guy go from like having all of this like lack of integrity. He's a rebel. Actually, he wasn't shy, but he became like this like king. And I'm fascinated with the king archetype. I've also been shy. I have qualities where I am shy, and I feel like I'm an underdog. But through like being mentored, through peeling back the layers, each time I'm stepping deeper into that archetype, that queen archetype. So I've been really like looking at. I've been watching The Crown. Have you ever seen The Crown?
Is it a series?
It's a Netflix series about the Queen of England back in the day. I think I'm not saying it right, but I really love the process of like the undoing and just like becoming royal. Like what are the stages? What is a mindset to become a queen, to become a king? And I know there's a book that everyone talks about, King, Warrior, Lover, Magician, which I plan to eventually read.
Beautiful. So that's the shy underdog movie. It's like the hero's journey almost, going from that shy underdog to embracing the king and queen that is within, I imagine. What does that? Yeah, like I'm curious into how it works, but also just to rewind, how did you end up doing such a thing? You talked about dominatrixing, you talked about sexual abuse. Like, let's talk a little bit about the history so that we can understand how you came to the point that you can work with these people to really support them on that journey.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that. So today is a really significant day. Today is the anniversary where my stepdad went to jail, and it was my day of freedom. It was the day that I learned that I'm no longer going to have my stepdad there. And so just a little story. Anytime I wanted to go outside, I was raped. Anytime I wanted a toy, I was raped. Anytime I wanted freedom, I was raped. So 7-Eleven's a big day for me. And I used to be in a cult, and everyone had a color, okay? And my color was yellow. And the day of the trial, my stepdad wore yellow. And I wanted to recreate a relationship with that color, which brings me to Project Yellow.
It's reclaiming the yellows. I've
Yeah.
got so many questions there. Cold. What was that all about? What did that look like?
Repeat that one more time.
I've got many questions come up now that you've shared that story, and it sounds epic. It sounds like, wow, can't even fathom what it would be like. So I'm just curious to what kind of a cult, what was it like to grow up in that kind of environment? What was your day-to-day like?
Oh, okay. Wow. It's so interesting when I get these questions because I'm learning with you.
Yeah.
I've never had this question, and at the same time, like, okay, let me explore this with you. Let me explore this with your audience. So I was in a cult. It wasn't anything crazy that you hear stories where it's like, really intense stories that I'm not gonna like repeat. Just, there's kids that are watching. I just had to wear a white dress, and I had to memorize scriptures and incantations. My stepdad, he had a pendulum, and he would use a lot of hypnosis, and he would have me sign contracts, to do my duties. And I had to, like, if I wanted like a praise, I had to do my duties, which felt like I literally felt like a slave. And that's why 7-Eleven is a big day for me, because it's a day that I feel free. I feel like that's not going to take my power, right? Sometimes our stories feel like it's going to take a lot of who our beingness is. And I do have to say that luckily it took a lot of healing internally for me to even start speaking. So 3 years ago, 2015, the day I finally moved into my own home in LA, I had no roommates. I started meditating. I started reading, listening to Alan Watts. I started to listening to all of these spiritual gurus and teachings. And I thought, there is something to this. There's some magic to this. And eventually there was a day where I left the gym, and I was listening to this beautiful song by Vanessa Carlton, which was a song I listened to at the day of the trial. It's called Paradise. And I wrote a piece on it on my Facebook months back. And I had this meditation where it was as if he was telling me he is sorry for what he did. And I just had the most beautiful, glorious catharsis and expression that I felt like I let it go, and like a new person came in.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. So in terms of the trial, was he like the head of this cult, or there was someone above him, or?
He was the leader of the cult, and
so this is your mother's ex-partner, or they kind
Yes, my stepdad, so her ex-partner.
Okay, so they're not.
He eventually remarried. Oh no, he's in jail. He's in jail. And I don't want to laugh like I'm making fun. I'm laughing because hey, I feel free.
Yeah, well, that must be. So how old were you 3 years ago?
29.
Yeah, wow. So it's 29 years of being in that. So it was something that you were in from when you were super young.
Yes. So from the ages of 7 to 13.
Yeah.
It was every day. And here the statistics, it's very common for children of incest for it to happen multiple occasions. And that's what happened at that time.
And then what was the journey like for you in terms of, like you said, you moved into dominatrixing? What was the upbringing like? And you did mention that you lived in a kind of not being able to share You know, like you said, you weren't able to talk for a long time. So what was that like?
Okay, that's a good question. I like that question. If I did speak, no one really understood what was happening, and I did have friends that would tell me. I had like this amazing friend who's now a doctor. She says, "Erika, oh my God, you're so different. Like, who are you? You were so weird. No one really understood you." And she made it a big deal where she would just say, I just didn't know what to say. And if I did say something, it was in a very mute, soft spoken tone where people would have to lean in to listen to me. Like, wait, what? Like, wait,
What do you say?
right? Yeah.
And so that was like talking about what in particular, but just about your upbringing and the kind of the life that you experienced, or
Repeat that one more time.
so that when it was the soft muted tone of being like struggling or like not being able to express yourself, like, because right now you're quite expressive, you're quite vocal, you know, so like what was the particular topics you were talking about? Was it your experience or your memories that brought that kind of soft, shy kind of expression?
Yeah, it was a sexual healing. It was working on like writing every event, going through that time and releasing that memory. And I have days where sometimes trauma comes back and I focus on like writing through it, or sometimes like a new memory comes up depending on an event. So an example would be like maybe I break up with someone, or maybe when I was being a dominatrix, for example, I would have someone who would look like my stepfather, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so crazy story. So I was like in this dominatrix role playing scene. So a scene is where you create a BDSM like fantasy between a dom and a sub. And so we decided to play daddy-daughter role. And it was really interesting because it was not anything violent. It was no ropes, no spanking. It was all psychological. But there was like a moment that the dom said something and I had a panic attack. And so it brought up all of these things where I just started yelling.
So that was you weren't expecting that at all. That kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And was that like a healing thing for you, or was it even more traumatizing and it sort of exacerbated things, or did that allow the expression of you yelling was actually quite like
the expression of me yelling was very freeing.
Yeah, I imagine it could be healing. Yeah.
Because I couldn't even yell.
Yeah, that's huge.
The only time I did yell was when I was a little girl, and I only remember like one time. But it was, you know, there's always room for like unpacking the emotion, and you should know because of the spiral, right?
Right.
And I think that's what we have in common is, and I'm curious, like, can you share your experience of the spiral? I don't know if you've ever shared it with your audience.
Yeah. So for me, I can definitely share that. First of all, thanks for sharing all of those pieces. It's quite powerful just hearing people talk about the experience, you know, especially when it's kind of traumatizing or it's uncomfortable, or it's like you said, it's not very talked about. You know, we don't talk about these things often. So it's very important, I feel, and quite brave to actually express. So thank you for sharing that. And in terms of the spiral itself, so for those who don't know, it's a clearing process, emotional clearing process that works with unpacking, like you said, and also clearing like stories and conditioning around the kind of core areas of our life. So if we talk physical level, like deserving, the dogma, the guilt, the shame that a lot of us hold and we get programmed into young in life, all the way up, you know, family, community, our creativity, all the way up to the heart, which is all about reason, love, and acceptance, our expression, which can get blocked with anxieties and low self-esteem, and then, you know, the confidence is also like what can get stifled, as you would know, with working with shy underdogs and embracing that king queen, like the king and queen energy sits in the heart. Then we clear everything around the vision, which is more about our psychic abilities, our ability to really trust in ourselves and the universe and each other. And then also on that crown level, which is like more the connection to the divine or the purpose level. So we work with the physical body, and we clear any blocks that are in the way of expressing our fullness in each of those areas. Using kinesiology, laid on top of spiral dynamics, laid on top, there's the chakra system that's involved. There's, so involved the different meridians in the body, and we go in and we neutralize any charge that is there that we're holding or stuck, that says that we have to do an emotion in a particular way. So we come up with these patterns and these ideal ways, or these appropriate ways, I'm doing air quotes here, appropriate ways of responding to whatever emotion. So when I first did it, when I first went through the spiral, which is created by a good friend of mine, Dane Thomas, shout outs to Dane Thomas if anyone's listening and knows him, for creating this epic technology and putting it, packaging it together so wonderfully. And it's reached so many people now. There's, I think, over 1,200 people who have been through the process. There's I'm here in Byron Bay right now. Actually, there's a spiral practitioner, I think the 5th or the 6th one now. So there's another 20 or so new practitioners who are being trained in the process right now. So we have close to 100 practitioners now. And when just rewinding, when I went through it, 2013, I went through with Dane in his bedroom in Melbourne.
When you first started?
When he first started, back when it was Gary Newton, the Gary Newton process, the Gary Newton method. Yeah, I think the Newton method it was. And going through it, we'd go into a room in a circle, and he'll be clearing, doing muscle testing, and just tuning in. And there would be like a room full of people, and he'd go through each person and clear the emotions, dogma, guilt, shame on the first level, so on and so forth. I'd come back a couple of weeks later, do the next level, and for the first, I'd say 5 or 6 levels, probably 6 levels, I was like, I don't know if this is doing anything. I was very kind of skeptical. How can anything be happening? All he's doing is playing with his fingers, tuning his like, I'm like, is anything really happening? And because I was doing lots of other things. I was meditating a lot. I was doing lots of qigong at the time. So my life was going quite swimmingly. And I couldn't pinpoint that it was this particular modality or this thing that I was doing that was creating the results in my life. But then I got to level 6 or 7, and I had stopped meditating. I'd stopped regularly practicing qigong. I was only practicing like once or twice a week instead of every day. And I'd stopped my meditation, my seated meditation, and it was the only practice that, like, the only thing that I was doing, kind of energy work or personal development stuff that was particularly focused. And my brother passed away. So my brother took his own life right at the end of the spiral, like just before I finished level 7, I think it was. And my best friend had committed suicide in 2010 in exactly the same way. So he jumped in front of a train, like it was eerily similar to how my brother did. Like my brother was 50 meters from my house, jumped in front of a train, and we found out about it a few hours later. And my response with my friend Dan, who did it 2010, was to just totally eject myself from life. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm just escaping. I'm going to take drugs. I'm going to drink alcohol. I'm just going to party and not deal. My heart was just broken and super painful, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I just went into kind of a downward spiral, funnily enough, spiral. And when my brother did the same thing, I'd finished level 7 just sort of as it was happening or after it happened, like when we were planning for the funeral and all this stuff. And my response was kind of the opposite. It was just like, all right, I was just here in my heart, solid and really well aware of the fact. Actually, I manifested a ticket to John D. Martini event, the Breakthrough Experience. And then out of a room full of 500 people, I got chosen as the person to get up on stage to do the grief process with him, which is collapsing all the anywhere where you feel you've got any grief left. And like there's this thing of a sense of loss. So grief is like a sense of loss. And it's also one of the emotions that we clear in the spiral as well. But what that allowed me to do is, being picked out of a room, there was like 100 or more people put their hand up to get chosen, and it boiled it down, and like overwhelmingly everyone chose they want me to get up on stage to do the process. And from then on, and because the spiral is actually largely based on the DeMartini method, in particular the collapsing of complex equivalents of two different things which you feel that you can't have, or like if we're owning the traits of the greats, for instance, which is a DeMartini method process as well. A lot of the spiral is based on this idea of collapsing charge, right? And really equalizing everything out and bringing everything back into equilibrium, so that we're not either putting something on a pedestal or putting ourselves on a pedestal and something else in a pit, or putting ourselves in a pit and something else in a pedestal, and it's coming back into the heart and balancing everything out, so that we have so that we're not being run by ideas and stories and conditionings, and actually are able to remain in the moment and choose however we would like to respond in the moment from now, as opposed to just running on subconscious stuff. So the coming out of that DeMartini experience, I was acutely aware of the idea that nothing in the universe can be one-sided. So nothing can be either good or bad. Everything is both in perfect amounts. So like the fact that I lost my brother, quote unquote, that I also had everything that I felt that I lost in life already. So the response to him taking his own life was just me standing in presence and holding space for other people to really have a process and realize that, you know, there's a silver lining in this. And what is it? I created a song and a video for my brother with about 20 other people who just happened to be affected by depression in some way. And, you know, and made something beautiful out of this kind of painful experience, you know, this heavily painful experience of losing a loved one, you know. So and after that level 6, level 7, I was sold on the spiral. It's definitely works. This thing is working because of the vast contrast in my response to an experience that, you know, really fucked me up last time, but then it really kind of empowered me the next time it happened. So not only that's one kind of experience, or one kind of benefit that a huge benefit that I took from it. The other ones were just my ability to feel emotions and to feel the different nuances and the different flavors in emotionality. So pre-spiral, I pretty much had like maybe 6 or so emotions. I was hungry, I was tired, I was horny, I was pissed off or angry. Maybe that was it. Maybe annoyed. Like I knew. Like I only had a small amount of emotions that I could express. My emotional vocabulary or color palette was just very limited. And as I did the spiral, even as level 4, level 5, now that I look back, was actually, I could feel the difference between arousal, or the difference between attraction, or the difference between spite, and the difference between bitterness, or the difference between I'm joyous, or I'm actually ecstasy. I'm feeling ecstasy right now. I'm feeling kind of lethargic as opposed to tired, as opposed to exhausted. You know?
Okay, so you have more of a distinction for the different flavors of emotions.
Exactly. And my ability to feel them and actually feel them in the body and notice the difference between them, and also notice them in other people. So that gave me a higher emotional intelligence and ability to empathize with other people with where they're at as well. And to communicate as well, to have the language to communicate how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? I'm like, well, I don't really know. Or I'm good is the common response. I'm good, or I'm feeling fine. So I could actually express how I'm feeling. And I think the traffic is huge.
Have you ever said I'm spiteful?
100%. Every day I ask myself, how am I feeling? Like at the end of the day, I'm like, how am I feeling in general as part of my journaling? And I write down however it is. I'm feeling focused. I'm feeling in flow. I'm feeling loved. I'm feeling loving. I'm feeling a little bit exhausted. I'm feeling kind of meh, or like whatever it is, you know, like I ask myself every day just to tune in with how I am feeling. So, yeah, I don't know if that explains a little bit to those listening what the spiral is all about in terms of the actual the practicalities of it. Is that was when I did it was in person, but nowadays most of the sessions that go on are usually via video link like this.
Yeah, I've done the spiral with Yana, And
Shout
I
out to
was
Yana.
shout out Sienna.
She's been on this
I
podcast as well, actually, with Nyaniso.
Yeah, I was gonna say that when I started last year, we worked something together, and I was really unsure, like, what was the spiral. And now I see so many practitioners, and I see like where it's got people. So I'm more aware of my emotions. Like even now, I can like feel that I'm present with you, and I'm also aware with my surroundings right now. And I think it's really important to be mindful of how impactful our emotions can do for us.
Yeah, 100%. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
So growing up, I grew up like with mental disorder, but I healed it. And I feel that's where mindfulness comes in: meditation, breath work, Tantra, just like deeper questions, journaling. And now we have the spiral, which is going to be revolutionary. And, you know, because we don't have these tools, we're operating from like the evolutionary past, you know, from like growing up Latina, it's like, you know, eating tacos and just
Burritos.
just being like crazy Mexican dramatic. And like the more I see mirrors from other people saying, hey, like this is how I experience you, I don't get offended. I get like, oh, this is really interesting. Thank you for telling me that. How can I overcome that belief system so it dissipates?
Yeah, like, yeah, 100%. And you're right. It does bring a whole new level of awareness around, I feel, how you are in the moment. And it gives, this is a common thing that I experience both myself going through the spiral, and then often, because I've taken over 100 plus people through the spiral myself. And something that I see commonly is this less triggered by things. So this kind of idea that if something upsets them or if something sends someone into a reaction of anger, of avoidance, of whatever is the coping strategy, that stops. And what happens is there's space between stimulus and response. So rather than get a response, react however you're supposed to react with, like you said, with the identity. I'm a crazy Latina, or I'm an unemotional man, or I'm a dramatic female, or whatever the identities that we have on. Rather than just doing that, we get the stimulus and we go, okay, how does that feel in my body? What do I want to do about it? And then there's that space between the response, and then actually I can choose now. Whereas before it would just be like, it just sends me into a reactivity. But now, once where the charge has been flattened and we're more present to what is rather than what we think it is with our mind, then there's that space to go, actually, what do I want to do here? How do I want to respond? Do I just want to hear that and feel that and be okay with actually, like you said, taking it on board and actually, oh, this is quite solid feedback that can help me become a better person, or can help me have a smoother relationship with others, or can help improve my own or other people's lives, you know? So yeah, it's 100% something that is common that I see a lot with people who do not just Aspire, but any kind of inward kind of looking, you know, self-awareness practices.
And I don't know why I have this thought randomly floating in my head, but I was thinking, how does people like Elon Musk master his emotions, right? Like I'm sure love comes up, jealousy comes up, like competition, spitefulness, anger comes up, sexuality, arousal, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Like how do they master their self when they're about to like launch a big idea or big plan? Like you have to, I think mindset is probably the most important thing, especially when it feels like chaos around you, and just, hey, be here in the moment.
What do you do for that? I totally agree. But in terms of you, what's your practice? You mentioned meditation earlier. You mentioned Tantra. Like what are some of the practices that bring you back into that presence?
Breath, just like tuning in, doing like a body scan. Like, so the tool right now, I would breathe into and just like feel any like heaviness. Like right now I feel energy on my shoulders. I feel energy in my spine. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling energy. I have like thoughts. I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, where am I? What do I choose? What voice do I choose? And then just like tune in with that higher power. And you know, sometimes I do that, or I do emotional freedom technique. There's so many, depending on, yeah, this one too. And right now I'm doing dares. So for 21 days I am doing Project Yellow.
Yeah, you are.
And this, I did this last year, but again, this is really inspired by me changing my relationship around yellow. And I'm planning on doing different projects in the future, but this one is designed to increase self-esteem, willpower, confidence, and also I'm going to be examining the goddess Oshun, who is, yeah, she's from one of the Orishas. She is like this goddess of like movement and abundance and fertility. And we're going to do that by doing 21 dares. So the first dare is dancing to a Cardi B song. Today is the first dare. So you can do that. I'm going to have it on Instagram. So I'm going to be sharing all of this on Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah. And when does it begin? When does it end? When does it run from? How can people get involved?
Thank you. It starts today. And I wanted to say, speaking of chaos, chaos happened today. Like, it was like really chaotic. And I know we have like some funky energy right now. We're going into the new moon in Cancer, and there's going to be the eclipse happening as well. So right now I've noticed that there was like chaos, but I'm still doing this dare and being like tuning in with the vibration of like the solar plexus. So I've been telling myself this affirmation: I drive my own life. I honor myself.
Nice.
I am worthy. And as I'm saying those words, I'm imagining that I'm being held by the color yellow. So today I had all of these car things happen and all of this other chaos. But as I'm tuning in with that frequency, I'm like, okay, I'm safe. I am safe.
Beautiful. So this is like, that's today's practice, or that's throughout the whole?
So well, I'm doing like other practices, but the dares are going to be shared on Instagram. And the first one is dancing, because it, you know, dance, like the solar plexus is really about the gut health, movement. It relates to the pancreas, the liver, the intestines.
I got the yellow one today too, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Synchronized.
My yellow is really light today, but I have like,
I got that synchronization. I saw the nails too. I noticed those.
Yeah.
So do you have everyone is registered already? Like, how do people actually sign up for the thing? Is it a hashtag? Is it?
So it's a hashtag. It's like a free project. And so one of the things that I say is, my meditation teacher says, how can you have mind-blowing sex when you have the nervous poos? How can you feel really sexy if you don't feel quite in your body, if you don't quite feel present? So that's why I know you do Qigong and you do like other practices. That's why it's so important to like, hey, like, let me do some breathing. I'm doing some Wim Hof, some meditation. Like, how can I like truly find a habit that will create like mastery long term when we actually need it?
100%. And it's that daily practice. And I love that it's a 21-day challenge, or 21-day of dares, because for me it's every day. It's like, if you really want something to create that change, I feel it's an everyday practice, and not to have to like beat yourself up if you don't do it. I'm kind of extreme. I like to do things that, like, it's just the way that works. If I want to get good at something, I just look at it like I'm going to do it for hours, 10,000 hours minimum. If I want to get a
10,000 hours
at a minimum, if I just want to have a good understanding of it, you know. And then if I want to get really good, work towards the 20, 30, 40,000 hours. But so I love that daily practice, because it's so easy to forget to give to ourselves, you know. It's so easy to let life get in the way of our own health or our own well-being, you know, which I feel is, I can't remember where someone was talking about filling up your own cup, you know, like ensuring that your own cup is full, because oftentimes we want to give out there, especially in this kind of community where it's like lots of entrepreneurs, lots of creatives, and we want to give, and there's this kind of energy of, yeah, you just give all the time. But if you're not giving to yourself, then you're actually giving from a place of emptiness. So there's not much to actually give. Whereas if you're giving to yourself and the cup is full and overflowing, then there's a surplus to actually give, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I love that you've got that. It's like a, you know, it's a giving to yourself kind of a project. And I love the reclamation of this, you know, like what was once traumatic is now something that is beautiful and empowering as well, you know. So for you, what was the experience like with yellow before you reclaimed it? Like, was it like, oh, it was just automatically like it tensed you up and brought back kind of crazy memories?
Yeah, so one of the things I do is I work with changing the relationship with your past by music, smell, going into different senses. So I sometimes use music, sometimes I use color, sometimes I use scent with my practice. And so for me, when I started seeing yellow, I was like feeling kind of weird. But then when I started to learn about the chakra system, I'm like, what is this yellow? So I was so drawn to yellow. And then I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it relates to confidence. And I'll be honest, like sometimes I will do this exercise every year and new experiences, new woundings will come up. But then I'm like, okay, let me go deeper into this. Let me go deeper into my sense of willpower, my sense of discipline, and share this with people, because as a teacher, I'm still learning. You know, like you said, it takes like 10,000 hours, 1,000 hours to get to the place of mastery. And each time you teach it, you learn even more. You learn from your mistakes. You fail more than you learn.
100%. And what's some of the things that you teach in the, you know, reclaiming the past and turning that, I guess, the relationship with the past, what are you turning it into? Like oftentimes people have this idea that they are a certain way, or that a certain something that happened to them means that they can't do this or they have to do that, you know. So like what are some of the experiences that you encounter from some of the people you work with, and then what do you guide them through, and sort of where do you lead them?
Okay, great question. So right now I'm focusing with the sexual self-mastery program. This one is about teaching men how to become multi-orgasmic and lasting longer. So I've been coaching a few men for the sexual self-mastery program, and it's really fascinated with a lot of, you know, like guys have different parts, but they have some different mindset. But they all want the same thing. They all want to please their partner. They want to like not feel tired. They want to feel energized. They want to feel like the king of the world, right? And I'm learning a lot about like letting them get out of their old stories. So sometimes I hear challenges. Oh, I feel like I can't perform good for my partner. I feel I have physical pain. Some guys have blue balls. I feel like I'm just going to fall asleep. So then it's my job to believe in this. It's just how you believe in the spiral. It's my job to make them believe that they can overcome that belief system, that they can't last longer or become multi-orgasmic. That happens for women. That's something that some guys say, oh, that's for women. Or I don't believe that happens. I believe you have to like be an old, once I get old, then I can do that. No. So in this program, we learn ESC, so erotic self-exploration. So teaching men how to create a habit, just like there's Tantra and yoga, having a specific habit that will teach you how to be multi-orgasmic. You could read Mantak Chia's Multi-Orgasmic Man. You can read all of these books. You can like listen to all of the download, but are you practicing it?
100%.
And so there's a 20 video series with 2 live Tantra models, and I'll guide them through visuals, kinesthetic, breath, deep visualization, and movement.
Beautiful. Is there anything that you can share just quickly, like maybe a visualization or a physical practice that like someone who might be interested in this can actually take with them or try right now? Or
okay, I like that. So we can do a deep meditation that I've done with a few clients. So if you are sitting at home, you can close your eyes.
I'm going to join in this one, so just let me know when to open my eyes.
Okay, so closing your eyes, And I'm going to have you visualize liquid silver, and imagining from the crown of your head and taking a deep breath in and exhale, and imagining that deep penetrating liquid silver cascading from the crown of your skull down your mouth. And when you feel your mouth, I really want you to pay attention to the taste. Tasting the saliva, noticing the gums, the teeth, noticing your smile, because we all need your smile. And breathing that energy of joyfulness in. And as you continue this meditation, follow the liquid silver down your throat, feeling it permeating into your heart. And start to listen for your heartbeat. And breathing and exhaling. Now letting that liquid silver follow the movement into your belly. So now you can place your hands into a triangle facing downwards. And letting that liquid silver turn into golden sun. And imagining that your kidneys, your pancreas, your spleen, your intestines is receiving all of that golden light. And as you're breathing, follow that breath as it's moving, expanding and contracting. Now following that golden yellow to your sex, to your genitals, whatever pronouns you use. And as you're doing this guided meditation, imagining that you're also feeling the visualization, but you're also squeezing and contracting, squeezing and releasing. And finally, going into your feet, to bring awareness to your feet. And just feel pulled down. So you feel that you have all of this tension in your shoulders, bring it all the way down, like you're being held down by Mama Gaia. And feeling held by the earth, dropping your weight. Go deeper and deeper. Now feeling that you're being protected by this container, this plastic bubble of sun. Beautiful sun. And smile, because we all need your smile. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, yeah, this process as well, it's a lovely process of just calming down and quietening the mind and tuning into the awareness of energy within the body, and also guiding it and directing it throughout the body. Is this an important piece of, you know, like of the work that you do, especially in, you know, awakening that sexuality and sensuality within men in particular? Or
Yes.
is there any significance between bringing the energy down and into the earth?
Well, I do the visualizations differently. So depending on where they're at mentally, emotionally, I will, you know, hold space. This one is just something organically that I'm just sharing with you. But usually visualizations have to be like microcosmic orbit. So it's like a circle, like imagining that you're transferring that sexual energy back, and then it's just flowing. So talk
to us. I know it's easy to find out, but just for those who don't know, talk about the microcosmic orbit.
I'll be honest, I don't know everything about it, but I'll definitely look into it. I did read about it in Urban Tantra. And so I did this actually, like, I'll just share a story. I had an experience with like another tantrika, another client, and we did this rocking the boat, but we were telling each other, so I'm like trying to like imagine the scenario. So my client was in front of me, and I was like imagining as my breath was going in, he was receiving my breath. So as I was breathing into him, he was receiving it, and it was like kind of like this interesting weave of give and take. But we would do it with like a boat. So it's like a rocking. Yeah. So that was my experience when I learned about it, and and I could be totally wrong, but that's my only experience when I did microcosmic orbit.
And I bring it into the ground and the earth, I imagine would just even directing it, like for instance, when I was starting to practice this, the orgasm control and, the ejaculation control and moving the pleasure, moving the sensations around the body, just I find at the beginning, it can be like the whole mind wants to go to the genitals, or wants to go to the balls or the sensation in the penis itself, and that very difficult to relax when all the energy and all the awareness is down there. Even just like focusing my attention and awareness, whether it's up in the sky or at the top of my head or down in the center of the earth, or like in other parts of my body, my hands, my thumbs, or wherever it is, can really help with being able to not get too excited, not get overheated or too aroused, so just I love that what you guided us through just then just shows how powerful it is and how easy it is as well, just to move the mind into different areas of the body and to easily direct energy around, and also not just in the body, actually into the earth and into other places in our environment,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting, like you've done Qigong, like when you start to just bring attention to, like, okay, I say focus on your head, you'll think about that, where your mind where your body goes, your mind goes. And I also have a dance background of like 10 years, so one of my obsessions was spotting. Spinning, like how can I spin faster, how can I like get into that, it's my own version of spiral, like how can I be faster. It was just all about like being present and actually being rooted into the ground, which is more how you can actually get the spin. The spot helps, it helps move the momentum, but it's like getting into the earth, right? So that it's really presence. Like if you're like here in the sky, you're not going to really feel anything. So that's one of the things I teach men, is like, how can you be more present to her? Because the woman will feel like, I feel like he's not here with me. Like, where did he go? His eyes are glazed. I feel like he's going somewhere else. And women feel it emotionally.
I guess 100%. I would agree that this is an interesting topic which I'd love to talk about, because I imagine there's people, whether women, men, whatever gender people want to identify as, who are listening, who have kind of queries about this stuff, and they either they discuss it within them within their own community or with each other, or they don't, and they're tuning in. So I guess is it okay if I just throw some questions at you, which might
yeah, I have a little bit of time.
Yeah, cool, which might be beneficial. So with like, why would anybody want to get into, like, be multi-orgasmic in the first place? Because I imagine some people be like, well, that kind of doesn't interest me. I have sex, I get off, that's it, get on with my life. Like, what are some of the benefits of being multi-orgasmic?
Okay, so for men, the typical thing is the man comes and he falls asleep. So also I learned that when they do, they reduce their life force. So one of the analogies that my teacher told me is, imagine there's two boys. One of them inherits $1 million. By the time he's 80, he's spent it. He's like a spender. So he spent all of it. By the time he's 80, he has like maybe a few $100,000, but he's going to spend it all. The other boy, he has the same inheritance, but he saves it. He learns how to save the amount, and over time he still has like a lot. So it's the same bank account analogy relates to your sperm, your protein. So if you waste it, guys will lose the keratin, you know, wrinkles. When I actually work with my client, his skin looks better. His orgasms are like so deeper. His sense of like knowing what she wants is like so tuned in. His energy, and it has helped him with jiu-jitsu, has helped his creative flow. So he's like now going to do a podcast, and like I'm just like, it's completely different. And so it's not just like, okay, like I had a really good experience. No, it actually affects your energy levels. It affects your creativity, your intuition. It really just balances your hormones. Usually when men have sex with women a lot, your testosterone like lowers. And this is something that I learned from John Gray, from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. But if you learn a practice that can contain that, and you can recycle that energy, that sex transmutation, it'll show up differently.
100%. So a ton of benefits there. And in terms of your experience with working with guys who have an awareness around their, like, have some level of sexual mastery and orgasm mastery or ejaculation control within themselves, what's been your experience with someone who's like, who has that to 0 degree, who has no control whatsoever, someone who has a high level of mastery? What's it like for you just receiving that, whether it's sexually or just to be around them as a person? Do you feel that energetically just in interacting with them on a non-sexual level as well?
Are you trying to say, like, do I notice the difference between a man who doesn't know how to control it, who's a 0, and then a man who knows full control?
Yeah.
He has non-ejaculatory choice, like, yeah, he's a 10. So for me, and this is like really good because like with all of the coaching, I'm starting to like notice the distinction. A guy who doesn't know how to control himself, he maybe like, I'm really working on wording this. I feel there's so much neglect on who they are, why they want it, and a lot of the unhealthy masculine background. And again, this varies cultures to culture. Indian men from black men, from white men, from Mexican men. I had the discussion earlier with a friend of mine who, when I was in the industry, you know, a lot of the uneducated, low-income families, minorities, they were just dangerous. So as someone who worked in the industry and like makes me uncomfortable, I would feel sad that this happens, mostly with the uneducated, you know. They don't understand what damage it can do because it is an emotion that's running the show. And so when you see willingness in there, I'm like, okay, this person has potential. They have potential, and I love that we can have these conversations because, you know, hopefully they can watch this and be like, oh my God, like I feel like that's kind of me. And some men end up feeling hurt, they feel sexually repressed, they feel lonely, and before you know it, they join communities like the Red Pill community, or they get
what's the Red Pill community?
It's for misogynistic men. I heard it's on Netflix. I heard Yana talk about it and a few people, but I heard a lot of people refer to it in the community. So I know that there's, you know, different communities that bring men because of that emotion.
And in terms of like there's lots of kind of shame and stigma around kind of like, you know, people feel shamed that they can't multi-orgasm, or they feel like, oh, they're not good enough because they can't control. Like, what do you have to say on that? Like, do people come with a bit of like, oh, they feel let down that they can't please their partner, and, you know, this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's a lot of more different issues. It's not that. It's like, oh, I'm angry at the furniture. Okay, why are you yelling at the floor? Why are you yelling at the boss? It's something deeper. It's like, okay, I've seen different types of fantasies. It's usually come from fear, a childhood fear. Like for me, like I came from that sense of control by my stepdad. why did I want to become a dominatrix? I wanted to become a dominatrix because I'm tired of people telling me what to do. And so when I was able to have that control, I was like, oh my God, this is fun. I was able to play on a different role. I was able to exercise that different sense of power that I didn't have. I was standing up, like, and I had like a client kneel. I was like, ooh, like I have someone who's wanting to obey me. Whatever you say, mistress, anything you want. What do you want me? Like, do you want to humiliate? I was uncomfortable with it because I don't like shaming men. So that was really uncomfortable for me because I'm an empath. I believe I'm an old soul. But I would always be curious, like, why are you into this? What fascinates you about it? So I would always have conversations about it.
Yeah, so you get to learn on deeper levels on while you work, right? And I imagine that would be the same case with doing the work with empowering, people in the bedroom as well. And just on the other side of things, you say you work with the shy men and women. So on the women's side, how does it show up, the shyness, and what kind of work do you do to lead them through towards that queendom or that?
It's similar work. So I do the Evolved Masculine Path. So this is a program that we go through 20 different videos, self-talk. We talk about like creating altars. What does your archetype look like? We have specific visualizations for cultivating the archetype. Then we create a plan, like who do you want to be? What do you want to look like? What is the energetic vibration that you have? What are the top 3 questions that I ask are like, what experiences do you want to have? What is a contribution that you want to have? What areas of growth do you want to master? Like, so for myself, like I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to take the spiral. But when that finishes, like what kind of growth? I want to be able to master my emotions. I want to get rid of the people pleasing, because I still have like old habits. I'm like, okay, let me master that. How can I powerfully show up for people in a very integrous, responsible way?
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is like, what's your intention? What be really clear and have a high level of clarity around what it is you want to experience and who you would like to be. So it's like that self-awareness again. Who are you? Why are you here? All of these kind of questions, right?
Yeah. Why are you here? Why are you here?
Well, for me, similar to you, like it's like you're helping people to be empowered, essentially. So for me, it's always to facilitate a space where people can unleash their potential. Like it's pretty much what it comes down to. And potential, I feel, is like this kind of divine or the divinity, this divine spark, this unknown that can come through and we can actualize in the world. So for me, all of my life, even the reason we're here now, is based around that, and mindfulness is a kind of a tool that is coming through loudly and clearly for me as something that is beneficial for myself and anyone who I invite to practice it. And like it's undeniable when you have hundreds and hundreds of results that show that, okay, when people do this, that happens. And by this, it's like, do the practice, that meaning get the result that they want to see and create the intention that they intend, right? So
all about purpose-driven life.
Yeah, exactly. And mindfulness for me equals purpose. The more mindful we are, the more purposefully that we live. So I would love to see a world where everybody is practicing some sort of mindfulness every single day, so that's what I'm on a mission to bring that about. So, and it's conversations like this that help that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll probably get this up pretty soon as well. So I definitely will send some people your way and send a link to this episode as well. So I'm sure you'll share some links down below. Is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with before we head off?
That's a really good question. Yeah. Well, honestly, just follow Project Yellow. Like, learn about it. 21 dares. Today's dare is about dancing. Tomorrow's going to be about meditation. I definitely just want to sprinkle as much love, as much knowledge as possible. And yeah, I have nothing else to say except like live your life fully. Don't ever let anyone tell you who you are. And even if you're still discovering who you are, like hey, if you still don't know, keep learning. Take personality tests. Keep leaning into your edges.
And
Leaning into your edges.
Thank you. Leaning into your edges. Talk to us a little bit about that before you head off. So, like, what does that look like? Because I've heard some people say that and they have no idea what I'm talking about. I say it.
No. Yeah. So leaning into your uncomfort. If you're afraid of public speaking, do it, and also do something that you have never done before. I mean, edges looks differently for every person. It can be talking to someone that you are afraid of talking to. Hey, sharing that you actually really like this person. Sharing a sexual fantasy that you're like, oh my God, I want to use a strap on. I want to get tied up. Share that. What is the worst thing that can happen?
That's a good question to ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just lastly, so for you, someone who's experienced quite like a vast amount of that trauma and it's triggering for you, what do you feel is like the key that unlocked the you know, like, because I imagine for myself, you know, being sexual abused when I was a child as well, there's something that's like because you just live life and then it's like there's this extra weight or there's this handbrake on because you're constantly kind of triggered by this past trauma, like you said, but you don't have to be defined by it. So for you, who has experienced that vast trauma, to then like come out of it and actually now you're utilizing it for the good in the world, and you know it's become this kind of positive thing. What do you feel, if you just look back at your life now, was the key that really allowed you to actually lean into your edges and to continually to put yourself in positions that are uncomfortable?
I would say, so there's a thing called Kenzo versus Centauri. I forgot which one is which, but Kenzo or Centauri is like people like find epiphany and aha and purpose when they're in pain. When they're like, oh, I'm sick and tired of this person, of this thing, or this situation. And then the other thing is like, hey, I'm inspired by art. I'm inspired by sex. I'm inspired by this. Like, I was living in the other part. I was living in, I'm always in pain. I'm always suffering. Like, when can I actually feel like inspired by art? When can I feel inspired by music? And so when I started meditating, it felt like a battle of the Buddha versus Darth Vader.
What do you mean? Like, what was happening?
You know, it was like the battle of the good versus bad. And of course, like, we all have like the good and the bad. And it's choosing which voice do I want to choose. Do I want to choose like the Darth Vader, the evil villain, or do I want to choose the enlightened master, the one that's like, just breathe, just follow the flow, just like lean into the fear and just be who you are. So when I started meditating in LA, I felt like that experience, and I felt lighter, and I cried. And it doesn't mean, okay, like if you're meditating, life is perfect. That's not what meditation's designed. It's designed to really unclog and really confront who you are.
Yeah, nice. So you just sat with it. So meditation was definitely key for you. There's another tip for meditation and mindfulness, guys. Meditation is a great way to practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
So thank you again so much for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing with us and taking the time and energy to be here. And I look forward to following your journey. All the best, and many blessings to you and Project Yellow as well. You're doing great things in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for wearing yellow, and thank you so much. You're a great host.
Thank you very much. I had no idea about the yellow too, so this happened. So it's that synchronicity, right?
Yes.
Everything just drops into flow. So thank you so much, Erika. Until next time, people, keep the flow growing and the growth flowing.
Thank you.